Hi, third graders. All year long, I've been asking you, and Mr. Durgan has been asking you to tell us about stories. And a lot of times, when we've been asking you to tell us about stories, we've been asking you to explain to us what happens at the beginning, middle, and end of stories. And what we've really been doing all year long is asking you to tell us about the plots of stories. So, today and for this week, we're going to be talking about plot and in terms of literature, or we're going to be talking about plot in terms of stories. I wanted to do this lesson really quick. I know we left off last week where we read the first chapter of Louie's Adventures of a Chicken, but we're going to be coming back to that in our next lesson when we continue on to talking about plot. So I'm going to just show you, I have this quick lesson today where I explain what plot is. Plot is a list of the main events in a story, poem, song, or other fiction piece. So when we ask, tell me the plot of the story, what we're really asking is, tell me about the characters, the setting, main events, the most exciting event, and ending of the story in order from beginning to end. Now, I've been using the word chronological order, or the phrase chronological order. And what that really means is that I'm asking you to tell me about the story from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. Because if you wanted to tell your friend about a movie that you read, you wouldn't suddenly start talking about it in the middle of the story or the end of the story at all. You would start from the beginning of the story and you'd explain the characters and the setting. And then when you started talking about the plot or what happens, you tell me about what happens at the beginning of the story, then the middle of the story, then the most exciting part, and then the end of the story. So for today, our reading focus is I can identify different elements of the plot in a story. Now, when we talk about the plot, the easiest way to think about it is like a mountain or a hill. So crafting a plot in narrative writing, an author crafts a plot. This is how the author crafts a plot. They start at the beginning. The beginning is like kind of the base of the mountain. It's where you introduce the character, setting, and problem. And then as we go up, we're developing characters and events. Then we're moving on throughout the story. We're increasing the suspense. This is a whole area is what's called the rising action. And then we have the climax, the point of the highest emotion or tension. Then after that is usually the falling action, which is usually a shorter part of the story, and the resolution, which is how the story ends. So I liked this picture because I really felt like it was a quick and simple way to show you really what plot looks like. But when we talk about plot here for this next week, we're going to be using this kind of plot poster. And I really like it a lot because it has all the different parts of plot in one spot. So the exposition is really at the beginning of the story, the characters, who they are, and the setting, where and when the story takes place. So really at the beginning of the story, it doesn't happen usually right away, but it's usually introduced pretty quickly is what the conflict is, or what's the main problem. I always like to think about the conflict as like what gets the story going. We've usually talked about conflict. We've usually said, what's the problem of the story? So if you remember me talking about that, that's the same thing as conflict here. Then you can see that plot looks like a mountain. There's different events. It's called rising action. So really, like right here, we're going to be talking about 3 different main events and the rising action of the story when we start reading Louie's Adventures of a Chicken again. So we're going to be filling those in as we read over the next few days. And then right here is the climax. It's the most suspenseful or most exciting moment of the story, and that goes right here. Then everything else that happens in the story is what's called the falling action. So it's like how do they start to fix the conflict, and how does the story end? So here's an event 1 and an event 2. And then it kind of goes to the end, which is the resolution, which is the end of the story, or how is the main conflict resolved. So you want to think about plot in a story as something that it like a mountain where it's getting more exciting, more exciting, more exciting. Then we're building up to the moment of most excitement. And then after that, there's maybe a few other actions, but then the story is usually quickly over and the problem is resolved. So over the next couple of days, we're going to be talking about what the plot looks like in Louise' Adventures of a Chicken, and we're going to be filling this out, not together, you're going to be watching me fill it out, but I'll be filling out and explaining what this looks like to you so you can have a better idea. Have a great day, third graders.